Good afternoon. When you think about it, department stores were born as performance machines. Indeed, back in 1852, when Aristide Boucicaut founded the first department store ever in Paris, he wasn't just inventing a new shop. He was investing a new system, one place, fixed price, wide assortment, real service, and economies of scale that the little corner shops could not match. He invented the department store to make shopping so simply and always easier for one customer at a time. And ever since in our industry, it has been about it, knowing her, surprising her, delighting her, and keeping her for life. And every generation tried to answer this with ever better technology. You see them here, the cash register, credit cards, barcodes, SKUs, mainframes, CRM systems, but then also e-commerce and omni-channel and KPIs. We KPI'd almost everything we could in the last years. And then online marketing, direct, social media, using the smartphones, QR codes, better CRM, etc. With some of these technologies were genuine game changers, and others, like blockchain or virtual reality, promised us the moon, but delivered so far relatively little. And here, while we were doing all of that, the battlefield in which department stores were operating changed radically, and we've seen it in the previous presentations. Monobrand stores came up, part of big shopping malls, category killers in areas like sports or technology or whatever, e-commerce giants, resale platforms, factory outlets, travel retail, and many of them using some of the same technology and tools than department stores, but with much less operational complexity. And that allowed them to take market share away. So today, we are entering the AI age, and it feels a bit like in this time when the first e-commerce sites were launched, the dot-com boom, you remember it? I mean, colossal investments, great new innovations, a mix of huge expectations, genuine anxiety, and a fair amount of confusion. And in this room, the question is very practical, not in theory, not on a PowerPoint presentation, but in reality, can we make the department store win again? Can we help strengthen department store versus competing models? Could department stores be supported by AI to deliver an experience that is better than any other format and at the same time improving financial performance? So that's what brings us here in today. And what I'm proposing to you is to hear a very concrete story of how a leading American department store, Nordstrom, worked with a retail specialized deep tech firm, Verneek, to deploy what we called here Commonsense AI in retail. So I hope that Jason, the CTIO from Nordstrom, and Nasrin, the co-founder from Verneek, will both inspire you and maybe rekindle a certain faith. The faith that the department store model could come back to the top of luxury and premium retail precisely because it uses AI to better orchestrate complexity and inspire the customer. With that, let me introduce you Nasrin, who together with her partner Moët founded Verneek 5 years ago with a real obsession of retail performance in mind. So the floor is yours, Nasrin.
That was a kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Now you can hear me loud and clear. I hope everyone's awake. The lunch, glucose spikes are all out. So I'm here to speak to you guys about common sense, which sounds boring, but it's all about getting us all the way back to the basics of what it is to truly seize the moment of helping the bottom line of the industry through driving us by the most practical use cases of AI. So I'm an AI scientist by background. My co-founder, Omid, and I started our journey in AI actually more than 2 decades ago. And this was the state of the art in AI. Bunch of fumbling robots, which basically was the status quo. And we thought that we were working on truly hard problems in AI. That was to try to create these multi-agent systems, robots that would be playing a strategic game. But fast forward, I came across this paradoxical paradigm, which is called Moravec's paradox, which basically entails that turns out whatever is easy on us as human beings turns out is the hardest thing to imbue in machines. And turns out common sense reasoning, which is this most basic cognitive ability of all of us as human beings, is actually really, really hard to teach machines. So much so that 20 years ago, I started to obsessively work on that problem as a scientific endeavor of mine. And this is the very particular question in AI that got me interested in the field, which is a challenge posed to AI. So let's read this. The question goes as follows. It's very simple. The monkey ate the banana because it was hungry. What does the pronoun it refer to? Is it the monkey or the banana? Anyone? No one? It's the monkey. And your 2-year-old children would even answer that, right? Guess what? It's basic. It's common sense. And I spent 20 plus years of my life obsessively working on solving that very boring problem, which turns out was baffling to machines, even when ChatGPT got launched 3 years ago. So ChatGPT that was passing the bar exam could not solve this very problem. And finally, fast forward in 2023, we finally had AIs that could solve that monkey banana problem, but on top of it, we're showcasing some basic cognitive abilities that we knew would be the foundation that we need to actually start building truly helpful AIs. And that's why we started Verneek, our company. At Verneek, our mission has always been to build the most helpful AI. And we knew that if we can have AIs that have common sense, that can reason with us, that can help us ultimately. So we understood early on that if we want AIs to be helpful, they shouldn't be generic. Shouldn't be going after the chasing of AGI or artificial general intelligence like old LLM companies would. You should go after deep domain expert AIs that can actually understand an industry throughout its life cycle and ultimately help augment the human beings involved. Actually, if I could redefine AI, I would call it augmented intelligence as opposed to artificial intelligence. And the reason for that is that artificial intelligence ends up putting the focus on this artificial, scary being that is just there to replace us, whereas the true power of AI, we believe, should be to elevate us, to augment all of us across, our lives. And with those two very particular concrete goals that we had, we realized that the industry that needs the most help to elevate its human beings is retail. I had nothing to do with retail. I knew nothing about retail, and a lot of CEOs and CXOs in this room taught me a lot as to why this is the industry to make a bet on. And guess what? Retail employs the most number of human beings on the back office as the largest private sector employer in pretty much every country I have visited. And on the flip side, of course, all of us are shoppers and consumers. And guess what? The most number of human beings involved. And with that, we realized that the largest and biggest really problem that we could solve for retailers to help them help all the human beings involved is actually to solve for their silo problem. So pretty much all of you guys sitting here, I would make a bet, are running on a lot of technological silos. Your design and merchandising stage, run by your merchants, are probably making their own siloed decisions on what to buy, how many to buy, where to put it, from people that do marketing to come and attract me to come to your stores or your .com websites. or ultimately all the way to your store that engages the shoppers to actually close that sale and finally to retain me. And that is why it's hard and complex to run retail. And guess what? We thought about this 5 years ago. What if we would have that technology that can actually de-silo retail? And that's exactly what we did through our AI native operating platform at Verneek. So what we do is that we get to ingest the given context of a retailer, which could be any of you, and off of that ingestion, we end up actually creating this centralized brain that will actually be able to do things like personalization, things like recommendation, things like search and discovery, things like care, ultimately to help. And off of that centralized brain, we'll be ready to deploy these very particular AI solutions on the back office or the front office that will actually work together in orchestration, not in silos, so that you can make good decisions all the way from back office to the front office. And the way our technology works, which is perhaps the most interesting thing, is that it is by this paradigm called reinforcement learning that basically helps all these AIs of ours optimize in an end-to-end way. And finally, one can say for the first time ever, what you will end up having is the fact that you can drive your business's top line while optimizing for the bottom line and delighting your shoppers, which has always been at odds with one another until now. So I said all of that to teach us or get us to this very final moment that what we see as the future of retail is to go AI native, is to make it so that your back office operations are fully connected to your front office operations. To make it so that if your merchant on the back office makes a buying decision, with mathematical certainty, you can actually sell it to the right shopper at the right time and at the right location and right place. And I know all that I said may remind you of what has happened with previous technology paradigm shifts, right? As Philippe talked about, a lot of those promises that were overpromised and under-delivered. And to be honest with you, as someone that got educated about what legacy software and SaaS industry has done, I believe that they've done a lot of disservice to all of you guys sitting in this room with all these technology projects that took decades, sometimes, and if not at least a few years, to be just up and running. But guess what? My lifetime dream of making AI have common sense and understand us has made it so that all of these things are now technologically a reality. But what it boils down to is to pick very concrete use cases to start from, which is what brings me to the next now presenter. We've had the absolute pleasure of partnering up with a lot of truly amazing Fortune 500 retailers, and the best of them is Nordstrom, and it's my absolute honor to welcome Jason, my dear friend, the CTIO of Nordstrom, to this stage, who happens to be the best, I would say, retail CTO out there.
Thank you so much. Would it be okay if I just said AI is important and sat down? How many times have you guys heard that in the last, 2 years? It seems like the narrative that's always out there. People say, hey, if you don't implement AI into your business, your competitors are going to eat your lunch. You've got to do AI. But they never really talk about what does that mean. So what does it mean to implement AI? And so my hope is by the time I get done, you will say that this was the most pragmatic talk about implementing AI into your business as retailers that you have seen, and it's given you some ideas on what you might go do. Now, it won't all be flashy, but most of our business, most of what we do, isn't actually flashy. It's about getting efficiency, it's about supporting our employees, and so those are the things I want to talk about. But before I get to that, sorry, I should have been on this slide. Before I get to that, I do want to just call something out. While the technology is actually ready, so the technology has improved just immensely over the last 5 years, and it could make a difference in every part of your business. While that's true, it's also true that every study comes back and says that 80% of AI projects fail to deliver value. So the question is, how can both of those things be true? How can it be ready and going to change the world, and on the other hand, like 80% of the time when you try to do it, you don't do it right? Well, I think it's three things. I think, and I think this because over the last 2 years, I've made every one of these mistakes. So take it from somebody who's made them and try not to make them yourselves. Number one, the technology is ready, but the context is missing. So what I mean by context is the uniqueness that you bring as your organization, your policies, your process, your data, your customers, all the information that actually makes the generic answer that AI would give you meaningful and something that's able to drive true value for your business. Claude's updating. Sorry about that. That happens like 8 times a day. I don't know who's using Claude. Let me go back. Okay, thank you. The second one is the tendency to coat current process with AI. So AI is a radically different way of working. You're going to actually have to change the way you work in order to take full advantage of AI. And the last one is overlooking the practical. So like I said, most of what we do is very practical. It's kind of mundane, but supercharging that stuff and getting efficiency out of it is the most, in my opinion, the most impactful thing that you can do to really transform your organizations. So the first use case. So I've got a set of 5 use cases. I'll have the problem statement. I've got the generic AI capabilities we used, the Nordstrom context. So what did we add that was specific? And then the actual value that we got. So the first one, like I said, not flashy, but store maintenance. Everybody in here has stores. They have technology in those stores, and that technology breaks. You've got to send people to fix it. And when you do that, your products or your technology is unavailable to your employees and your customers. The issue we were having is that our technicians weren't trained on all this stuff in the stores, and the amount of time it took us to fix the registers and the debit readers and all of the things that make the store run was way too long. In addition to that, we're opening new stores, and we had an aggressive hiring plan because we needed more technicians to support it. So we said, hey, how can we solve this? So what we did is we took AI, added Nordstrom context, and put an expert in everybody's pocket. Now our technicians walk in, they take a picture of any error message or any broken piece of hardware, and they say, how do I troubleshoot this? How do I fix it? And the expert just walks them through that. And on the right-hand side, you see the result. It's a 50% reduction in the time it takes for us to fix the broken issues in our store, and it was a 70% reduction in our hiring plan. So very practical, real outcomes that help drive value. Number 2, customer care. And again, every retailer in here has a customer care center. And at Nordstrom, our entire reputation is predicated on our service to the customer. It's something we take very, very seriously. So injecting AI into that was really a big step for us. But the problem we were solving is that we were getting 800,000 to 900,000 customer contacts per month, and our care agents just weren't able to give the level of care that we would expect. We want that care to be proactive. So that's the problem we were trying to solve. And you can see on the slide, we added Nordstrom, we added our policies, we added insights about the customer, the knowledge articles that our call center already uses, purchase history, on and on and on. So we added a bunch of context that made it very specific for us. And on the right-hand side, you see the result. So our digital agent, Nora, now handles over 40% of every customer call and chat that would have originally gone to the associates in our call center. And the customer experience score is a 98.7%. So 90% good experience with our agent. And it gives our human agents more time to deal with more complex problems and to make sure that the people that call in really get what they need. Does that make sense? All right, the third one, clienteling. And so not everybody may have clienteling, but what we mean by that is our sellers in stores. They have a book of individuals that they work with, and they reach out to these people when they're not in the store, and they keep a personal relationship. And so selling is all about that personal relationship, and we needed to find a way to amplify it. The problem was our sellers in stores have a lot of people they need to reach out to, and they need to do it in a very personal way, but they also have all the things they've got to do during the day, and writing those messages was really time-consuming. So a really easy thing. So this was actually pretty straightforward from a technology point of view, but it was the Nordstrom context about the customer, about the relationship the seller had with the customer, about their previous chat history, about their brand affinity. All of those things made it where we could leverage generative AI to write a very personalized message from the seller and allow them to send it to their customer. And so as we did that, you can see on the right what happened. 42% of our sellers took advantage of that capability. We saw outreach go up over 30%. So the amount of contacts that we had with customers from sellers went up over 30%. And the bottom one is the most impressive. Our response rate from customers went from 27% to 34%. So that means the messages resonated with customers. Though the sellers didn't have to write them themselves, they absolutely resonated with their target, and we built a stronger personal relationship. So that's another very practical thing that you can do to support that relationship with the customer. The next thing, this one sounds boring, but there's a twist at the end, so pay attention. Item enrichment. So every retailer onboards items, and we've got to go out there and we've got to make sure that all the attributes on those items are set. It's usually 300 or 400 attributes, and we have a team currently of 200 to 300 people that do that work manually. It takes a long time, and it's really not work those folks want to do. So, we'd love to upgrade what they do during the day. So what we did is we took a number of different AI technologies, we added a specific context from Nordstrom, and now 96% of those multi-hundred item attributes are actually filled out by AI as opposed to humans, and we have a 91% accuracy. So it takes an amazing amount of time off of 200 to 300 people in our organization and allows us to either redeploy them or find an alternate way to leverage that labor. It also writes the copy for our website, which happens 20 times faster. So humans used to do that, now AI does it. Now, that's really interesting, and it's great from an efficiency point of view, but the coolest thing is that now we take this enriched item feed and we send it to places like ChatGPT. So now they have our item catalog, so when customers come and they search ChatGPT, they actually have the view of the items that we want them to have. And the very first week after we did this, we saw an 86% or 85% increase in traffic to our website from ChatGPT. So what we gave them allowed our customers to shop better, even not on our platform, which I think is pretty amazing. All right, I've got one more. And that, you can't get out of a conversation about retail and AI without talking about agentic discovery. So we're in early innings on this one. We just launched that experience probably 3 weeks ago on our site. And what it allows customers to do is not just do keyword search, but to actually have a dialogue and find exactly what they're looking for. Like I said, early on, the experience is not even close to what we want it to be, but what we've seen from customers that engage is a 90% increase in conversion and 135% increase in demand. So pretty good response from a beta experience. And so I would suggest that selling outside, selling inside are both going to be key in item enrichment, and the capabilities that you leverage with AI are both going to be the cornerstone of how you do that well. And one last thing. So I would say this is a fraction of the things we've done with AI, but I hope they're very practical and things that each of you could take back and potentially, if you haven't already taken a step here, could go do. But one last thing. So the next experience we're going to launch to our customers is something called outfitting. And so to give you a little background, we currently have a capability on our site where customers can come in and they can put something in like the following and say, hey, I'm looking for an outfit, it's an occasion, this is kind of what I like. And we have a team of human stylists who will take that insight and they will create an outfit specifically for that customer and send them the links back. Now, when they do that and they send that information back in an hour, we see a 21% conversion. Not an increase in conversion, but a 21% conversion. And I think anytime you can get that, it's worth investing in. But what we also see is when we make that service available to more customers, we actually can't handle the demand. So we know people want it, but we can't handle the demand. And what happens is our SLA, the response rate, we send back, we used to send it in an hour, now we send it in 7 days. And so when that 7 days response comes in, the conversion drops to 5%. So what we're piloting now in beta is an AI agent that will allow customers to send, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And the AI agent will take all of the context from our fashion office, from our fashion authority, from purchase history from like customers, and it will actually send that outfit back to the customer. And as an example, a test for this conference. So the outfit that you're looking at is the suggestion that Request a Look gave back to Nasrin, right over here, who was on the stage a few minutes ago. And in addition to that, my outfit was selected by Request a Look, so don't judge me, it was Request a Look. And a number of others in our party were also dressed for this conference by this new capability. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you today. I hope you took something away that's a bit practical that you can take back and leverage in your organizations to start to move the needle with AI. Thank you.
So I reassure you, my outfit was not selected by AI, for sure not. In order to conclude this, I would like to bring you back to 1852 very briefly, because 1852 was not only the first department stores, or the first professionalization of retail, it was also the middle of the Industrial Revolution. And in the Industrial Revolution, what happened? Steam engines and machines were brought into workshops to replace human work. And the interesting part is that at the beginning, manufacturers would just replace here and there, and then they realized that that didn't work, that actually you had to redesign the whole workshop process if you wanted to efficiently use machines and steam energy to elevate the productivity of a workshop. And that's the parallel with AI today in its equivalent, of course, not for physical work, but for information work. So today, AI will reshape, as we all know, communication, how we make decisions, processes, clerical processes, etc. And with, like all big technological transformations, there will be winners and losers. And the winners will not be those ones who just sprinkle a little bit of AI on top of all their old processes. That's not going to work. The winners will be the ones who are brave enough to ask, almost line by line, if we had AI from the start, how would we have designed this process differently? How does AI completely change the way we operate? So in other words, the winners, the winning department stores, like Nordstrom, will treat AI as an opportunity to rethink every part of their business, break some of the silos, as Nasrin explained, and rebuild a more seamless way to satisfy customers. So in a way, AI is a unifying bond or brain across the entire operations from the front office to the back office, or from the back office to the front office. So also in 1852, as the steam engines of the Industrial Revolution were transforming factories, Boucicault, our founder, he bet that one place, one experience, one relationship could outcompete everything else in retail. And today, with AI, we can finally honor that bet at scale. Not simply by automating the human way, but by putting him or her, the customer, and the human serving her, back at the center of everything we do, thanks to the new technology. Today, as the AI revolution gains momentum, once again, the future of luxury and premium retail can belong to department stores. Not despite their complexity, but because AI finally helps to master the complexity and to leverage it towards ever better customer experiences. So, Jason and Nasrin, thank you very much for your insights. Thank you to the audience for your patience and listening to us. Thank you.